Today on PTL, we take a spin through the Premier Leagues, put a buff on your fantasy points, plus Reggie's here to give CLG's Hot Shot a hot pink makeover. Don't touch that browser. PrimeTime League starts right now. After being down all game, Team Solo Mid persevere.
You do not give Faker LeBlanc.
Hello and welcome to PrimeTime League, the only officially sanctioned League of Legends show that also doubles as a hair salon. I'm Rivington Bism III, and with me is my co-stylist Joshua Jet Leesman, and we have a 6-stacked Lulu Alted Cho'Gath-sized show for you today.
And don't forget the Elixir of Iron Riv, just to make sure the measurements are correct. Let's get right into things.
Let's jump right into it. We'll start things off with last week's BF Game of the Week, where CLG and Team Solo Mid battled it out for sole control of first place. The hype was real coming into this showdown, and wow, did it deliver. Seemed to be the only thing everybody was talking about last week.
The emergence of CLG, the golden age. Would TSM be able to prevail? Early on, Aphromoo and Doublelift showing why they're known as the best bottom lane in North America. If only they could have given that kill to Doublelift.
First blood going over to Aphromoo. Kill secured, if you will, for that KS.
Had to be
but
done.
There would also be resources given to Dyrus as well, because he was getting a bit of pressure.
Yeah, TSM gives a return attack, and the fact that that kill went over to Dyrus meant he could stay even and farm. That was a factor really late into the game on an unkillable Scion.
It helped because this was time number 2 that he was actually getting 3v1 dove. CLG was trying to get opportunities around the map, and they kept looking at him.
And you could already see here, 2 dragons to 0, another 3-man gank onto Dyrus.
Yep.
Things were definitely not going TSM's way. It was a very dominating looking game from CLG. With 4 dragons, Baron, Inhibitor, they just have to win this fight.
It was the story of the fights, them being that strong, completely exploding. Bjergsen, the guy you want to be making plays for Team Solo Mid, and CLG would chase these fights out. Doublelift on Corki was kind of a question, but he was coming up big.
And this fight only happened 1 minute before the 5th dragon, so you knew it was going to happen again. And based on every fight up to this point, CLG looked to be in control.
But CLG was far enough ahead that they could make a mistake, right? Maybe some mispositioning, but no, that's exactly what cost them the fight.
Multiple mispositions right there. Link ulting himself and not doing much damage, and Doublelift being stuck on the other side of the wall, and then Doublelift sectioning himself off from the rest of the team. Because he had been playing with so much confidence, he didn't realize how low the rest of CLG was. That delayed the game. CLG did not get the 5th dragon.
And that started to be the rebound for Team Solo Mid here. This was very chaotic, and CLG running in one after the other, almost able to take down Turtle, but he had other ideas.
Wild Turtle, with his in-team fight play, continues to be incredible. That is where he shines. And his impromptu situations, his ability to ad-lib when things happen here, like when he gets teleported on. Who would pick up a kill in this situation other than Wild Turtle?
Right, your initial thought is, I need to run, but instead he goes down valiantly in that situation, and those little edges started to creep TSM back.
And we have a game again. You know, whoever wins the next fight may win the game. TSM starts that fight right with the charm.
Such a huge fight to have and not have Link right away. Lustboy zoning him off, and Zion Spartan was left to fend for himself, and it was already too late.
An unbelievable spell shield from Wild Turtle, and like you said, it was too late at that point.
Yep.
Doublelift, again, unable to become meaningfully involved in these fights.
Well, he got involved. Got right into the center once again. They were having to put themselves into some scary situations to try and peel the game back from Team Solo Mid. But at that point, it was too much power, and TSM made their comeback.
It's just Zion Spartan and Next Smithy trying to hold off the entire TSM team, but it's not enough. They're too late in the game. The death timers were too long, and as you said, Rib, TSM persevered.
Such a crazy matchup. Like everybody said, the hype lived up. Even Doublelift said it was one of his favorite games to play in. The players had an amazing time. And as an added treat, head over to LOL Esports channel on YouTube for a special edition of Mic Check featuring the team comms from the CLG and TSM in that game. I know Reddit was looking for those.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying golden age. This could be a golden age for your ears, Riv, with the pink hair, though, not being required.
Yeah, not so much. And now for a closer look at that game-changing moment that came from Wild Turtle in the BF game of the season so far. Let's head over to Kobe.
Thank you, Riv. And what a game that was, with TSM snatching victory away from CLG through superior team fighting. Now, even though I am still on probation and I'm not allowed to draw on the telestrator, I still wanted to take a closer look at that last team fight because it's such a good example of something we don't get to talk about in detail very often during the cast, and that is zone control. Now, zone control is a tactic that you can utilize as a tank. Basically, You gain control of an area on the battlefield, and you create enough threat that the enemy carriers can't even get in range to deal damage at all. You don't always have to dive their back line. If you can prevent their carries from doing damage, buys your team time to burn down their tanks. So let's get into it here. Roll the clip, and we will see Smithy does get caught by a charm. So even though TSM are behind, they want this engaged because they chunk out one tank already. Smithy's pretty much useless. Let's pause one more time. Now, Smithy has been chunked out before the fight even really starts. So that's one tank down. At this point, Santorin goes back in to get a beautiful Cataclysm. He cuts off the entire entrance to the river. So CLG are completely split. They have Link in the bottom, their AP threat, and Doublelift caught in the Cataclysm, their AD threat. So he's going to have to Valkyrie out of this so he doesn't get hit by Darius' decimating smash. And at that point, CLG have no damage to follow up on Zion Spartan's beautiful Gnar ultimate. So let's roll it again, and we'll see. Zion's going to flash over, but since all of the threats have been zoned out, they can't follow up. Also here, look, Lustboy off camera, the hero. Exhaust Link keeps him off for a long time, delays this engage. Pause again. So Lustboy, as Annie, one of the most underfed champions on TSM, able to keep the big threat of Link out of the fight for long enough for TSM to gain some time here. It also opens up Turtle. He gets some extra time to see Link telegraph his move. Link has to flash in to get his Lissandra ultimate off, and there's a 0.4-second delay before the stun lands of Lissandra ultimate. Turtle gets his spell shield off. Great play from him. TSM's backline will live, and that means that they've had enough time to burn down both tanks. Smithy and Zion no longer get to play in this game. Roll the rest of the clip, and we'll see how they finish it off. Those two are going to go down. And then Link, since he committed for it, he's in the middle of the team now. Doublelift tries to go in with him since it's pretty much the last time here. But Doublelift with a little bit late activation on his QSS, or his Mercurial Scimitar, basically gets layered with stuns again. Lustboy comes up big, adding in another kill for them. So once again, if you can actually zone off the carries and have them do 0 damage, that's even better than tanking them and having reduced damage. Now let's send it back over to Jat and Riv.
Thanks, Kobe. I feel smarter already. Now let's take a quick look at the North American standings.
Yeah, with their win, TSM is alone in first place and could be representing North America at IEM Katowice next month.
But it wasn't just first place in a trip to Katowice riding on the line that game. Both CLG's owner, HotShot GG, and TSM's owner, Reginald, put their heads, or more accurately, their hair on the line.
Literally their hair color. The loser agreed to dye their hair pink. So let's actually head over to Kobe, who's standing by with Reggie and Hot Pink GG to get the pink age underway.
All right, thank you guys. I am here with Reginald and HotShot, of course. Now, Reggie, I'm sure you're glad that you don't have to be sitting in that seat. Now, remember back to the game, 4 dragons down. Were you already thinking of ways to get out of it, or had you already embraced your fate and you were resigned?
I mean, after like the 3rd dragon, I completely thought that we were gonna lose. I was just straight up depressed. I was like, we lost. Like, HotShot, I don't want to ever bet you again. And then as soon as we started winning, like, he was making fun of me. He was just like laughing and smiling, and I was so sad. And then as soon as we started winning, I'm like, oh my God, you're throwing the game.
Not smiling any longer. Now, HotShot, are you planning on embracing this? You picked out any outfits, or are you going to try and hide it with a bunch of hats?
I have no idea yet. We'll have to see.
Just work through the pain, HotShot. Are you going to have your team get in on this at all? If they keep losing games, maybe a punishment? Join them in your pink hair?
Maybe we'll start betting with the team, you know?
All right. Well,
I like that.
Let's get right into it, actually. Let's not wait around any longer. We have a hairstylist here, and this is a long process, but we'll start it off now. Does it burn, HotShot? Does it burn?
It burns. It burns my soul.
Burns your soul? I'm sure you take great pleasure, Reggie, in watching this happen. Don't worry, you'll savor this for hours.
I love it. Imagine when it actually turns pink. It's even gonna be better.
All right, guys, this process is going to take a little while. So for now, we're going to send it back over to Riv and Jat.
Thanks, Kobe, and watch yourself over there. We know how you feel about your color temperatures. And now in other North American LCS news, on Monday, Team Liquid announced that they would be benching Piglet for Week 5 and that Keith would return to the AD carry role.
And in that announcement, Team Liquid also went on to say that there have been ongoing issues during scrim/training that have resulted in a poor team dynamic. Now, it is very shocking that they have benched Piglet, a world champion who was ranked as our #1 offseason roster move. But at this point, after so many defeats, you kind of have to ask, if Keith does well, is this going to be a permanent change? Looking back to week 1, Team Liquid came in with Keith as a substitute, and they beat Impulse in their first game, and in the next match they handed CLG what was up until last week their only loss of the season. But those were teams playing with substitutes, and this week, Liquid and Keith face teams with rosters at full strength for the first time, so it will be different.
And the rosters that Team Liquid are facing include a surging Winter Fox and first-place Team Solo Mid, so it won't be an easy ride for them. But now let's spin the globe and head over to Taiwan, where there was another battle for first place, this time in the LMS. This first-place showdown featured the top-seeded Taipei Assassins and their jungler Wins taking on his former Gamba Bear teammates, now known as the second-place Yowie Flash Wolves.
And Wins was the one getting some revenge early on in the game. I mean, even against a jungle Nidalee, he was able to find the very early jungle pressure and get TPA out to that minor lead.
Minor lead indeed. Yowie would, however, try to squeak back in these as Wins goes aggressive again in the bottom lane, but they stay a little too long.
Yeah, that was one of those over-aggressive plays there by Wins. He's been prone to those because they've beat up on so many teams that can't respond to that. But Yowie Flash Wolves absolutely can. They had Caitlyn traps and Nidalee traps and a whole bunch of chasing. Plus, they bring the house to the turret.
Well, when you're in first place, there's not many people to give you that fight check, so you get it only a few times, and it takes you by surprise. Here, however, they do catch out Jay, then they catch out Lupin because he wants a cupcake.
Yep. Charm into Bubble, into Nidalee Spear, into all hell breaking loose because Yowie Flash Wolves can chase the entire map. Nidalee, Aurelia, Nami, everyone is just able to pile on to TPA.
This one as well. Flash over the wall. Already 2 members quickly over onto Lupin. He goes down. Morning has no chance, and TPA is forced in. Whoop! Nice dodge by Maple there.
Yeah, Maples are real scary. And Yowie Flash Wolves with a very important victory for them. Their only loss of the season did come to TPA early on.
That's true. They had a good fight there, so we're going to see a really, really strong fight for the top of the table there. Yep. All right, so now let's take a look at the LMS standings after last week's 13 matches. Despite handing TPA their first loss of the season, the Wolves remain in second place with 2 fewer wins.
And it's also interesting to note, as we said, that the Wolves' lone loss came at the hands of TPA back in week 1. So these are clearly the teams to beat heading into the second half of that spring split.
Yeah, if it comes down to a head-to-head in the LMS playoffs, I'm not sure that TPA can bear the Wolves. But now let's turn to last week's Twitter question. We asked you guys which LCS player will get the highest CS in a single game this week, and what will that final score be? The correct answer was Giants Gaming's mid laner Pepinero, who farmed his way to a 483 creep score and a loss to Gambit. Sadly, nobody got it right, not even Pepe himself. But as they say in Spain, en tu tiempo, ahora nueve. Am I right, guys? No, of course I'm not. But keep your thumbs ready because we've decided to double down. Same question, bigger reward. Once again, send a tweet to @LOL Esports with the hashtag PTL telling us which LCS player will get the highest CS in a single game this week and what will that final score be. I think you've heard this one before. And if you want to get a shot at getting into the Hall of Fame, remember you have to get within 5 CS to enter. But Hall of Fame or not, the top 3 closest tweets with the correct answer will win themselves one of the new Lunar Revel skins, these guys right here. So study that schedule closely and send us your tweets before the game your tweet is about. No fair tweeting it as it happens or after the fact. We will be watching, so no cheating allowed. Now, we won't be inducting any new Hall of Fame members into the Hall this week, but our one and only pro in there does keep sending OP tweets. Lustboy asked why he's in the Hall at all, but tweets like this are exactly the reason. Lustboy, take Bjerg's advice and watch more PTL. Then you'll know why you're in. And Loco Doco, by the way, we are still open for bowl cuts just in case you need a trim. Otherwise, grow it out. It looks good on you.
So apparently when you can't see Lustboy, he's off tweeting somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's shift our focus, however, now to the European LCS, where Elements headed into what they probably expected to be a pretty easy match against H2K. However, H2K responded with European superstars who?
Yeah, and the start of this game was really perplexing. Nif versus Kasing was not really showing much respect. He's already half health against a level 2, wards the brush. Spellcast and autos, I mean, he is asking to die, and that's exactly what happened.
Just because the guy's being brought in to sub in doesn't mean he's not going to be making plays, and he did throughout the game here. His Shook goes a little too hard once again. And Kasing and Harden there to pick it up.
They were able to pick up the kill, but the extra chase from H2K was a little bit too much. Nice ultimate there by Lulex. Gets Yarning going a little bit more. 3 early kills onto Sivir. That's good for Sivir.
And look at this, Nif again saying, guys, look, we're engaging, but nobody's there with them, completely having no communication on this engage, and H2K just take over.
I mean, we did hear from Elements that Nif was trying to make a lot of the shot calls, but how that wasn't working out too well. If you're on a Janna, it is really hard to make engaged decisions or engaged shot calls. He gets himself in trouble, and H2K continues to run away with this game.
It seems like they are plagued with what happened to Alliance as well, in that time to charge up the team, and they're looking to charge up. They look to hopefully do so and even out the week at 1-1 versus Gambit, but Gambit also had other ideas.
And you could tell Diamond was really happy to be playing Nidalee in this match, for one thing. But the action did get started off in the bottom lane.
The bottom lane, indeed. Nif goes to harass as Reckless hits 6, thinking they had the upper hand. But it was kind of turned around. Edward being able to pick one up, too.
Yeah, 80 carry kill for a support kill. That actually is in the favor of Elements. And they had a little bit of a lead throughout this, but Diamond kept making little tiny plays, making that an unsmiteable dragon for anyone else because of his spear smite time.
King of the jungle coming back, man. Elements getting absolutely blindsided here by Gambit while they were trying to push mid lane, and it doesn't seem like they can even recuperate in these.
And this fight really showed how out of sync Elements was. Shook was off on the side of the screen, ulting in Nidalee, while the rest of the team was off doing something else. Shook died because nobody followed him, and it allowed Diamond to get ridiculously fed on Nidalee.
And that would be just about the last time Elements saw Gambit's side of the map. Cabochard here helps to finish things off as they melt Froggen down on Anivia and finish out the game.
Yeah, my favorite part there is the flash ult for Morgana on an egg. They were so far ahead they could do whatever they want. He's an egg, he can't move. Get him with CC.
Everybody's got to make plays. So here's what the standings look like in Europe after their 10 games from week 4. SK Gaming continues to dominate the table, now with 8 wins and 0 losses.
And Fnatic has slipped to second at 6-2, with the Unicorns of Love in third at 5-3, and then a 3-way tie for fourth right behind him.
That's right. And that brings us to the BF game of the week, the European El Clasico, with even more on the line than usual. Fnatic holds the record for the longest winning streak in European LCS history when they won 9 straight games during the Season 3 spring split.
However, SK Gaming could tie that record when they face none other but Fnatic this Thursday, and they could break the record on Friday if they finish the week a perfect 2-0. And did you know, Riv, that SK is the third team to go 8-0 and then face Fnatic to try and win number 9? Both Gambit in 2013 and Alliance in 2014 failed to beat Fnatic and tie their winning streak, so we will see if the third time's the charm for SK Gaming this Thursday.
Nice chat. The more you know. And now to bring the European LCS into sharper focus, let's bring in our main Dane. How's it going, Deficio?
It's going great, Rivington. I'm very happy to be back here on PrimeTime League, and hopefully we won't have the same problems we had in week 1.
Oh, no problems. Let's first turn our gaze to Elements. They're currently on a 3-game losing streak and are replacing their top laner. What has happened to Europe's super team?
Well, right now it seems like almost everything is going wrong for Elements. The team looks weak in the laning phase, the pick and ban phase isn't working, and they're not being proactive enough in the game. Only Froggen and Shook are actually trying to make some plays, which shows in their kill participation, where they rank as the second best jungler and best mid laner in Europe. Wicked and Reckless, however, are completely different stories, as they are far behind. Wicked has the worst kill participation for top laners, and second worst goes to Reckless for 80 carries. And that's just too many problems for Elements. So now as a team, after losing 3 games in a row, they've gone on damage control and actually benched Wicked in the top lane and brought in Kevin, a player we haven't seen since Millennium failed to qualify for the LCS. And Kevin, he's a safety first player, so I'm not expecting to suddenly see a very aggressive Elements coming into week 5. And also just to note on Elements here, they will lose 2 bans in both the games this week for failing to submit the paperwork for Kevin in time.
Definitely something we'll keep an eye on there. Now I'd like to shift our focus to H2K. Not only did they beat Elements, they took down Roccat to finish the week 2-0 again. Has H2K finally found some consistency thanks to their new support, Kasing?
So Kasing has definitely helped the team in their impressive Week 4 performance. We have to remember he was the guy who managed to hook Nif in their match against Elements to secure the first blood and allow H2K to snowball the game completely out of control. But I don't think he's the main reason for H2K doing so well. I think the new and improved shot calling allowed them to rack up those 2 very fast and impressive wins against Elements and Roccat.
All right, and the other team to take out Elements was Gambit. And just when Diamond and team have started spearing some victories, they lost their mid laner. What's going on with Gambit now?
Well, sadly, Nick, he's sick, so he will be out for week 4. He's been replaced by Betsy, a young challenger player who plays a lot of Assassin, so somewhat the same style. But this is a shame, because Gambit is just coming off a 2-0 weekend, and they finally looked ready to leave the bottom of the EU table, and now they have a new challenge to overcome.
All right, and continuing the trend of underdog teams doing well, the Copenhagen Wolves took Fnatic down last week. And of course, we know you aren't biased at all, but what do you attribute to their performance?
Not what, but where, Mr. Rivington. And that where is Denmark. Because if you take a look at the Wolves' Danish mid laner Soren, you notice that he's an almost exact copy of a famous mid laner who also happens to be Danish. Not only do they have, or they come from the same country, obviously, but they both got the same, because the start in the LCS was at the Copenhagen Wolves in the same position. They both have Soren as a first name, and they both love to eat pølse, which is very important for Danish mid laners. But the difference here is that Soren, he's sadly lacking a mentor like the one Bjergsen had.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Bjergsen's mentor, since we'd like to take a look at another Danish national treasure, you, Deficio. And while your LCS record is mediocre, with 28 wins and 28 losses, we think you're way more than average here on PrimeTime League. And for those of you that don't know, Deficio actually led the EU LCS with a 6.07 KDA in the Season 3 summer split.
Yeah, my one highlight as a pro player. And honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed you decided to use that picture. I mean, you could have just taken one right here.
That's all right. You have enough highlights to make here on PTL. Thanks, Deficio. It's been great having you aboard, and we'll see you when the European LCS continues on Thursday.
It was a pleasure as always, Riff, and I'll see you soon.
Now let's turn from Deficio's Danish daydreams to flights of fantasy as Jat dives into the LCS point pool.
Thank you, Riv. And Deficio should actually know that last week saw North America steal control of fantasy away from the Europeans. 9 of the 10 top spots actually went to North American players. It's about time. Let's actually take a look at some of the studs. First up was Wild Turtle, who, because of the nice spell shield he had at the Lissandra ult at the end of the CLG game, helped into that 75.6 point total. And then Alltech and Pobelter, it seems one cannot succeed without the other, but they both succeeded heavily in that 2-0 week, got 73 points and 68 points. But obviously, not everyone can do well. There's also some players that failed to perform. And this week, the duds include Shook, who managed 9.2 points, the fewest of any jungler in the LCS. His teammate Froggen as well, second worst performance from a mid laner, but it's Froggen and people expect much more out of him. And finally, we have Balls, who has dropped significantly this split in fantasy points. He's only 10.5 points per game, which ranks him as the 3rd worst top laner in the league. And the 10 points last week did not help much with that. But we have many roster changes this week, which means we have plenty of alerts. Piglet, we mentioned, benched. Keith is in for him. Nick is out as well on Gambit. Betsy is in, so if you were starting Nick, get rid of him, obviously. Wicked as well is a player that a lot of people were starting, just hoping that one day he'd get Aurelia in the top lane and put up some fantasy points. But Kevin may also now get Aurelia and put up some fantasy points, so pay attention to that. The next one as well, Mimer, he is out. JWoww is in the top lane. And Jess's is also out, with ManCloud taking his spot. So a ton of alerts this week. Make sure you get those guys out of your lineup. Sleepers as well. Kind of has to do with the alerts for Keith, but he had such a great performance in week 1 and should be available in most leagues since only 2.7% of fantasy owners kept him in their lineups. So if you don't have him, there's a good chance you can pick him up. Also, matchup-based, Freeze and Soren are playing Roccat and MYM and have also been putting in some impressive fantasy points before even having the easy matchup. So these guys should be really big sleepers for this next week. With that, though, you should help improve your fantasy game. And while you make the roster adjustments, Freak will tell us how things are going in his league.
Chat, they're going extremely well. It's PrimeTime League's Fantasy League, a legendary league, and it's starting right now. So why am I feeling so good? Oh, it's probably because I destroyed Snoopy by like 100 points last week. I haven't seen Snoopy get dominated that bad since he was on EG last year. And there's some shots fired for you. Of course, last week we asked you guys to tweet and tell us who you think would win. And for some reason, 58% of you thought that Snoopy had a chance. Apparently you guys are really big hip-hop fans because you're Snoop line if you really think so. Unfortunately, Snoopy hasn't mastered Twitter either. Here's some proof that he sucks at trash talk. Pro tip, leave the jokes to me. I'm just better at everything than you. But last week's win puts me into a tie with Xpeke and Stoopy for first place. But since I've beaten both of them, I own the head-to-head record, so I am the best officially now. It's even in the standings. Looking ahead to week 5, I'm set to pull away from the pack to take on Freddy's 80 carries, and I will remain in first place. But this week's featured matchup in the PTL FO4 is a battle to stay out of the bottom of the table between Imagine Dragons and HotShot's Dolphins. Now, Shox, I know you were respecting my wishes to let me win every week, but you only played me once. You can beat the rest of these guys. Please get something other than a 0 in the win column. Send a tweet to @LWEsports using the hashtag PTL, along with hashtag ImagineDragonsWin or hashtag ShoxWin to show your support. And actually, I think that Shox has a really good chance here. After losing last week to Artie by only 3 points, I do think she is due for a victory. And especially after all the trash talk the Dragons tried to talk to me last week, it's her time.
And I'm just wondering why @FreakLose or hashtag FreakLose isn't an option.
Because I'm not going to lose, Rev.
Anyhow, it's now
tweet him that
time
anyway.
to check in China's LPL, where Edward Gaming met Energy Pacemaker. And for EDG, a win in this match would put them in the top spot for the first time this split.
I mean, EDG has been looking so strong, not tying many series, so they're always getting those 3 points. And this Hecarim was a bit of a surprise pick. Didn't work out with that gank early.
Did not on that one. Amazing Jay coming up with some amazing plays, but try and try again. And you get in there and the horse will do some work.
Yeah, he's just going for it on this game and this fight. Look at this. He held his ult that entire time. Huge play there.
One more,
by
right
Hecarim.
under the turret. He doesn't care. So Clear Love's great game started to actually extend to the rest of everyone, but that didn't mean EP wasn't giving up.
Yeah, with the stolen Baron, you'd think, oh no, the game might be falling out of the hands. But Hecarim does so much work in this fight. Deft is in the back, untouched, with the missiles just destroying people. And that fight just clicks straight through for the win.
Straight through for the win, coming out into game 1 there. And we see game 2 coming out strong just as.
Yeah, I mean, look out, Kane. There's a team. Oh, God.
Kane gets hit up from the 2v1 lane swap. They pretty much put that pressure on instantly for him, and Koro would actually keep things going this game. They try to go big pressure here, but it's a little bit of a misplay.
You could tell no one was really on board except for Amazing Jay, and then he ends up pushing Koro back after one of his teammates die. At this point, you know Koro's going to be just an unstoppable force.
Yep, and EDG here, 22 minutes to get a really advantageous over-the-wall poke fight. You couldn't have asked for more.
Jeez. You could hope for more people standing near the wall, but that would be even more foolish. So EDG really in control of this second game. Just look at how easily they can kill Kalista again and again.
30 minutes, they're already in the base, looking really good. Koro here doing his best Cola impression as he tanks 2 turrets for an ungodly amount of time, and he doesn't care.
Yeah, well, they gave him the face of the mountain shield. I mean, that's enough, right? Another just full wipe from EDG. They had so much power this game. 16,000 gold lead, 30 minutes in, and finishing off a nice 2.
Towards the end of that one, EP couldn't even leave the base. An unfortunate loss for them. And our next highlight comes out of LGD versus OMG. After EDG showed us why they are the top team in China, the fights continued in the LPL as the teams that used to hold the top spot, OMG, looked to return to form when they took on LGD.
And Wayless, at the start of this game, just had a ridiculous killing spree. Seemed like everything kept falling into his lap. It's like, oh, look, another low person running away. I'm going to kill you on Ahri. A 3-0 Ahri at this stage in the game is beyond deadly.
And the confidence to then dive into the pit. I don't know when we haven't seen this guy on the first blood reel and then more throughout the games. It's like Wayless highlights.
Yeah, and I mean, he used to be known completely for his farming, but this game he was actually out-farmed by 40 CS by Azir, but was still so dominant. So that's a really good sign for Wayless fans and LGD.
Another dragon fight and a steal from TBQ as Imp chases down Uzi here to give him an eventual grave, but the long fight's really just playing out in favor of OMG here.
Yeah, a super close fight we get to see here. Imp versus Uzi at the end of it. I mean, Azir got a lot of nice damage off this. Could have been a bad fight for LGD, aside from the fact that Imp was 13-1 after that fight and 17-1 on the game.
We knew it was going to be a great game between the AD carries, and that's what we got time and time again. However, in game 2, Cool got his hands on Ahri, and he was pretty chill about the plays.
Yeah, both guys taking that Ahri into the game, and this was such a nice play by Cool. In and out and in and back in again. it seemed like then he overstayed and died.
Overstayed a little bit. He knew it there. You can see it on his face. The mistake was made, but he doesn't make those mistakes again. LGD looked really good throughout the mid game here, winning these fights, but they never really managed to pick up a huge lead.
Yeah, honestly, a pretty competitive game in that sense. They continued to catch Uzi out of position a little bit. They finish off going. You could tell a little bit of sloppiness from OMG, hoping that their individual skill would carry them like usual. And here it kind of does. Loveling makes an outplay on Rengar, and the horses come in for OMG.
Diving in, 4,000 gold down in this fight, and Uzi just sat on the back line, just assessing his targets and sizing them up.
It's so hard when you're a Rengar and there's a bunch of squishy targets on the side, Ahri and Kalista, and you engage onto the tank. That means when Zed ults Ahri, the Kalista is free to do whatever she wants, and Uzi is the worst person to leave unharassed in a fight.
From real strong play coming out of China there. So let's take a look at the LPL standings as they approach the halfway mark of their split.
Edward Gaming sits on top with 9 wins and 1 loss, while OMG, Snake, Invictus, and LGD will be looking to improve their playoff positioning when the LPL resumes its matches on February 27th after a week off.
Now I'd like to welcome the English voice of the LPL and someone who is literally larger than life. How's it going, Pastry Time?
That's awesome, Riff. How are you?
Not too bad. The first couple of weeks of the season, OMG was the most dominant team in the league, but over the last few weeks, we've seen them give up a number of ties like they did in that series versus LGD. What has changed for OMG in the last couple of weeks?
I mean, I think for OMG, it's a mix of a couple different things. The first one is that their style is rather inconsistent. They play very aggressive tri-carry League of Legends where they try and get cool, Uzi, and Go going all really ramped up in the lanes and then kind of carry through a really explosive mid-game and win from there. The issue is that when that doesn't work for them, when the early game doesn't go as well, they can kind of struggle in games and don't really look like they know what to do. The issue also for them has been drafting in some cases. They picked themselves into some pretty confident-looking compositions only to have the mid to late game kind of fall through. And honestly, the rest of the teams are getting better as well. OMG just aren't the force that we expected them to be, despite being full of very talented players.
All right, and another former Worlds team that is struggling even more is Starhorn Royal Club, who has dipped down into 7th in the LPL standings. Last week, they added 4 support players to their roster, including Godlike, who played as Ackerman for LMQ at Worlds last year. Are they desperately seeking solutions?
I mean, kind of at this point. The core of the team still remain the same. The only one that left, of course, was Uzi, their massive carry player. But Korn and Kohler are still there, and Insec and Zero are still there as well. But for Royal, it's kind of been a revolving door of substitutes almost. Ackerman's ready to go in the top lane if they want to kind of move him in, but they haven't played him yet. Kohler's actually looked quite strong. But of course, the big one being HYY, who's playing in place of Name. He was suspended from the LPL until about March, which is around week 8 for them. So Royal, they'll be happy to still be in playoff contention right now, but they're just not the same looking team right now. They've got some results, which is good, but without their star AD carrying Name, who knows how they'll play. And Name, if he does come in late, it's going to really have to push that team in towards playoffs.
All right, Pastry. And finally, we need to touch on IG. Invictus Gaming 2-0'd Starhorn last week and is one of the teams poised to move into the top of the table when the LPL spring split continues. What's been the key turnaround for them?
I mean, the thing for IG is that they've just looked like a much more cohesive team. We saw that IG kind of just played like Rook and Kakao to carry every game, with Kid being a secondary carry in towards the bottom lane, but Pokemon's really stepped up and started gelling with the team, and just in general, they look very, very comfortable. So the new patch might have triggered some things. Kakao was playing full AP with a Majai's jungle Nidalee in one of the games, and IG in general have gone from being a super aggressive team to a very rounded team. Unfortunately for them, they did have a couple splits on the weekend and a longer schedule, so they'll be unhappy to not get more points, but they're looking poised to be a very strong contender in playoffs.
Definitely someone to watch for. As always, Pastry, thank you so much for the insight, and we'll check back in after the LPL resumes on February 27th.
Cheers, Riv. It's my pleasure.
All right, we've been pumping highlights from these games into your eye sockets, but now we have a treat for your ears. Sit back and listen as the pros go verbal. It's time for Mic Check.
Guys, come on. Hey guys, can you guys hear? I'm trying to get the comms going right before LCS, and you guys are just bringing me down.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, guys.
Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Singles
Darshan's my Valentine.
Day.
I love being your Valentine. Let's
What the
make
heck?
something special, dude.
I thought you were my Valentine, Afro.
All right.
Sometimes I wish I had bad eyesight so I could buy these hipster glasses all the Koreans use.
You can. It doesn't matter.
You just buy them. What's stopping you?
What are you going to say today to make yourself even more famous?
Oh no, I'm stop trolling. Really, I'm never more so trolling.
So you basically buy a pair of glasses without glass.
Yeah. No, they have glass, but just normal glass. You just see through it.
Yeah, just no, nothing.
So how do I get that? Amazon?
That's easy.
Now 49er, he's going to work here, he's going to work here, he's going to work here. He warded that probably. No, he didn't. Oh! We may not be winning, but we're not losing either, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Your hipster glasses would not fit you at all. Why? Of course it would.
No.
Oh.
Your face, no.
What?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
My KDA, my KDA! No! I'm there,
Nice! Nice! Yeah! Nice! 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 Good job, boys! We lost! Yeah, we beat it!
Wait, let T-Burst tank, let T-Burst tank.
Look at it!
Nice! I think we need to make
Nice!
start calling that nice check. So, with first place battles happening all around the league, let's check out Korea's LCK, where the GE Tigers hope to remain undefeated. To do that, they had to square off against Faker and SKT. And with Faker in all 3 games, GE were back in their classy classwear.
Yeah, and this was a fantastic series. First game, Faker on Ezra, something he's found a lot of success on, but he can't dodge everything.
Can't dodge everything, and Smeb hitting the cleavers, and really the Smeb show here. We see that Rek'Sai is on GE Tigers, but there's obvious tunneling onto Smeb.
I mean, this was a fight where SKT caught out multiple members of GE Tigers, but it took them so long to finish off Smeb, they couldn't get any objectives.
And that was the story of it. He didn't even have to hit cleavers in these fights to be a menace. They tried and tried as they could, SKT, looking to come back here to Baron, but they couldn't get much out of it.
Another really aggressive Baron call by GE Tigers, but because of how strong Smeb was and because they committed to the Baron, they were able to peel off and get that fight. SKT kind of came in one at a time, and unless you're putting the entire team onto Mundo, you're not taking them down.
And we knew this was going to be a good series. GE Tigers undefeated, and they looked to stay that way. So we hop into game 2, where SKT really had a give the ball to Faker type of play style on this one.
Yeah, I'll give you a tip. If you want to beat SKT, you probably want to remove Faker's LeBlanc. This one was also SKT ganking mid instead of just letting Faker get ganked.
And great use of the absolute zero here by Bengi to actually give Faker the opportunity to dance around and get more kills in this fight.
Yeah, it didn't look like much. I mean, first game he did Mission Impossible. This game he decided to do a little bit of zoning, but this fight was about Faker and the team's ability to play around him. He just dip dives and dodges all around this fight. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is doing consistent damage. I mean, this was kind of the game before the game was over.
Yep, and SKT moving into the base 37 minutes with 5 stacks on that Dragon. They made quick work of this game in very strong fashion.
Yeah, 5-stack Dragon. No need to wait for the Nexus to fall. The game was over. Time to prepare for game 3.
Preparing for game 3 indeed, and 2 big players to step up were Kuro and Prey, and it wasn't very long for Prey to get a few early kills.
Yeah, this was a really intense game, kind of a fitting end to a best of 3 between the #1 team in Korea and SKT. Prey and Marin, surprisingly, were really fed this game.
And Faker doing Faker things, getting himself to safety, but it did not seem to be his day in the end. Prey coming up again with the blind shot.
That just feels so bad. You suck, is what Faker
you
said.
can hear
He
it.
doesn't like that guy.
You got it right from the lips. And more plays from Kuro and Prey. They go into the fight. Just seeing how confident they are here shows you where GE Tigers thought they stood in the game, and they made the plays work too.
Yeah, casting against Azir, even though Faker could do a lot of damage in some of these team fights, he couldn't quite stay alive. This fight was curious because Prey dies at the start of it, but look where the rest of GE Tigers are.
There's too many behind, able to get a good flank in, and there's nothing SKT could do about it. A great win by GE Tigers. You can see Prey fanning himself. There was just too much heat in that game.
Yeah, even though he got cooled down by Lissandra in that last fight, he's like, well, I guess we still are undefeated.
Undefeated indeed. So let's see what that win does to the standings in the LCK at the end of their first round robin. The Tigers took to the top spot, going undefeated in their series.
Yeah, and then 2 series back is actually CJ Entis with Jin Air and SK Telecom rounding out the top half of that very competitive table.
And speaking of Jin Air, let's take a look at their exciting series against KT Rolster. Jin Air came into this match in 3rd place, probably looking for an easy win off the 7th place KT Rolster.
Yeah, KT Rolster definitely had other things in mind. They probably played their best series of the year right here. And it all started with score in this first game. Counter ganking to get Someday going. In a 3-man gank, being able to turn it around is exceptional.
I love that. Watching it in the game, I was like, he was on a mission, and they actually got the mission success. More plays onto Chaser, 4th death as they were going on to him there. He had a tough game.
Not only did Score shut them down in the top lane, he was also all over the map, being in every single kill this game. But he missed that smite.
Oh, Trace. The top Morganas we've been seeing lately, coming up big with a binding there. That Baron would lead to quite a bit of strength coming in for KT, and they would be able to overtake these fights.
Yeah, but they trapped GBM in the equalizer because of the Cataclysm. They then crushed the rest of the team fight. I mean, KT Rolster really did have control of this game outside of that Baron steal, all thanks to Score. 4 kills, 20 assists in a 24-kill game.
That's right. LCK 60-minute fashion. Going for the long haul. We get into the next one, and it was Che with the special surprises. A level 1 Howling Gale.
Everybody steals objectives. That was the name of this series, as long as they're on Jin Air. But then they had a pretty big lead and a little bit of a scary fight here because the Wombo was executed.
Yeah, the big Wombo combo, the Mega Gnar into Shockwave, and then the follow-up Flash Ball here. That's actually quite hard to miss. You can come up short a lot. KT was on point this game.
Yeah, it looked like Nagne might be able to carry this one, but at the end of the day, it was just Jin Air with too much objective control and too much strength. They played it very safe in typical Jin Air fashion. 5 dragons and a nice team fight.
A huge gold lead coming into this game. They are able to take that one.
Game 3.
Jin Air coming in on game 2. Game 3 was Nagne controlling that pressure he was able to deliver and consistently delivering more.
Yeah, and the strangest thing about this Jin Air team comp is they did not have their customary wave clear. So once KT started to get a lead and Nagne really got a lead in this game, there was no real way for Jin Air to stall this one out.
Yeah, it was Nagne day, you could say. Pulling this one right on the backside, picks up another one for himself. And KT, again, so strong in these fights, was pretty much able to walk on through. Score's ultimates were just locking up the perfect engagement.
Yeah, I mean, he trapped 2 people completely inside that ultimate right there, allowing the rest of KT and a giant Ari because of Lulu Wall to chase down the rest of Jin Air. And probably the fastest game we've seen KT Rolster win here, especially against Jin Air.
Some amazing play from them, being at the bottom of the list. Like we said, Jin Air was thinking they could pick up an easy win, but no go there. Good to see that KT Rolster's getting some victories. And one of our favorite moments on PrimeTime League is sifting through the ridiculous plays and putting them together for you in a glorious mashup.
Yes, so here are the best moments from last week, or as the Lunar Rebel champions like to call them, the Penta.
Coming in at number 5, just as the Yeti knows the way, so does Bengi.
Oh, wow.
Out there.
Look, he's actually in between the Sentinels. He missed the vision. They didn't see him. Bengi.
Wow.
That is awesome.
That is a sneaky Nunu right there, man.
The Sentinel's coming in. He goes for the red seal immediately. He has Smite. He's going to get it. So looks like Lee may be getting red buff. Yeah, he's got Smite consumed.
He does have it.
And you know what? He's not even going to be seen.
Nope, just going to sneak it behind it. Oh, he's just going to eat it on his way out.
At number 4, Kamakat brought on the pain with his 4-man Azir ult.
Será que ele fica por ali? Ele sabe o potencial de dive. Valkyria pra longe.
Vão acabar os minions. O Kami tá chegando, vai dar ruim.
Olha só o que o Kami fez. Jogou 4 jogadores pra trás. Pode rolar a eliminação. O Eren sendo focado, eliminado pelo BRTT. Chega também o Túlio. O de goleiro é o foco. Vai tentando kaitar. Recebe muito dano. Double kill.
Coming in at number 3, it's Someday and Nagne with the gnarly Wombo combo.
Trace running back. There's the oh, what a huge set. That is a Wombo combo, a double kill for Nagne. Make that a triple. They try to go in on the Someday. He's Mega Gnar. He's so tanky. Look at that ult, and then the ball immediately right on the Mega Gnar for the Shockwave.
What a great team fight for KT.
Pouncing in at number 2, Diamond steals the Dragon with the Spear and the Smite.
They can try and steal maybe with a spear, but that's it.
Yeah, he's been able to snipe a blue buff. He's gonna go and he gets it. He gets the lantern. How about it? Diamond procs with the spear snipe.
And notice the timing. The spear was in the air, and then he actually jumped the wall, and he smite as well, so you have way more damage. That was a beautiful steal.
And running away with the number 1 spot this week was Smeb.
좀 죽어라! 왜? 좀 죽어라! 좀 죽어라! 아니 왜 이래? 싫어!
놀랐습니다. 스킬 하나만 피했으면은 그래도 살 수도 있지 않았을까 하는 아쉬움이 있어요.
Well, we all have regrets, Smeb, but I think you can walk proud after that one. And remember, if you spot a Penta-worthy play, send it to @LOL Esports along with the hashtag #ThePenta so we can add it to the reel.
And another way you can get involved in the action is by joining one of the many LCS viewing parties out there. I mean, coming up in Week 5, there are parties in Los Angeles, Seattle, and New York City. You can learn more and get tools to host your own viewing parties at lolesports.com/VP.
And now it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's finally time to reveal Pinkshot GG's new look. HotShot, are you ready?
Let's get it done with.
All right, Reggie, I'm giving you the opportunity. If you would like to remove the towel, you can do so now.
I would love to.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah! Yeah! Right. Take a deep breath. Are you ready?
No.
No! What? No!
It's a perfect vibe. Wow, that is.
That's what I have.
That is 100%.
Bye. Do it. All right, guys, that does it for this episode of PTL. We'd like to thank Reggie for joining us, and a special thanks to HotShot for being such a good sport. Who knows, the power of pink might just be what CLG needs. Be sure to stay tuned as North American Challengers Series starts up in just 2 hours. For now, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on PrimeTime League.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Oh, that was great.
Unbelievable.